I want you to think about the last time you blew up a winning streak, not a losing streak. A winning streak. You were finally doing everything right. Your trades were working. Your account was growing. You felt like you'd figured it out. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, you destroyed it. You took a trade you knew you shouldn't take. You broke a rule you've been following perfectly for weeks. You doubled your risk on something marginal. Within days, everything you built was gone. And you told yourself it was bad luck, or the market shifted, or your strategies stopped working. But deep in your gut, you knew the truth. You sabotaged yourself. You engineered your own destruction right when things were finally working. I'm going to tell you something that's going to sound insane. You didn't fail because you're undisciplined. You didn't fail because you don't know enough. You failed because you're terrified, not of losing. You've lost before. You can handle losses. You're terrified of winning, of succeeding, of what happens when trading actually works, and that fear is keeping you broke. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how this works, why it happens, and how to stop destroying yourself every time you get close to breakthrough. Because if you don't fix this, you'll spend the rest of your trading career stuck in the same cycle. Build up, self-destruct, start over. Build up, self-destruct, start over. Forever. Let's get into it. Let me tell you about the day everything clicked for me. Not in a good way. In the most uncomfortable way possible. I'd been on a 6-straight winning streak. 6 perfect executions. My strategy was working flawlessly. I was up $3,800 for the week. This was it. This was the breakthrough I'd been working toward for 2 years. I could feel it. Then Monday morning came. I sat down at my desk, opened my charts, and there it was. My exact setup. Everything aligned perfectly. Price at my level. Volume confirming. Structure supporting it. My rules screaming at me to take this trade. And I froze. Completely froze. My hand was on the mouse. I could see the opportunity. I knew I should enter, but I couldn't move. It was like my body was refusing to cooperate with my brain. I sat there for 8 minutes, just watching. The trade triggered. It ran exactly where I expected. Would have been another $900 winner, but I didn't take it. I just watched it happen without me. And then I did something even stranger. I closed my platform. Middle of the trading session. I told myself I needed a break, that I was being smart by stepping away, that I was protecting my profits from the weak. But that was all lies. The truth was much darker. I was terrified, and that terror made me do something I'd never done before. I avoided trading for 4 days. For full trading days. I didn't even open my charts. When I finally sat down to figure out what happened, I wrote in my journal, I think I'm afraid of this actually working. And as soon as I wrote those words, everything from the past 3 years made sense. This wasn't the first time. This was the 6th time. 6 times I'd built momentum. 6 times I'd gotten consistent. 6 times I'd started believing it was working. And 6 times, right at that exact moment, I'd found a way to destroy it. Different methods every time, but the same pattern. Progress, then sabotage, growth, then explosion, breakthrough, then breakdown. I wasn't unlucky. I wasn't indisciplined. I was scared. Scared of what would happen if I actually became a consistently profitable trader. Because if I succeeded, I couldn't make excuses anymore. I couldn't blame the market. I couldn't tell myself I was still learning. I'd have to face the truth that I was capable. And capability comes with responsibility. And responsibility felt more dangerous than another blown account. Everyone talks about fear in trading. Fear of losing money. Fear of being wrong. Fear of missing out. Fear of pulling the trigger. These are real fears. Every trader deals with them. But there's another fear that nobody talks about. The fear that kills more trading careers than all those other fears combined. The fear of winning. The fear of success. The fear of what happens when you can no longer pretend you're incapable. Think about what losing gives you. Losing is familiar. You've done it before. You know how to process it. You have a script for it. You can tell yourself you're still learning. You can blame external factors. You can convince yourself that if you just study more, practice more, learn one more strategy, next time will be different. Losing gives you permission to stay in the comfortable identity of someone who's trying, someone who's on the journey, someone who hasn't arrived yet. And that identity is safe. Because as long as you're trying, you can't fail permanently. You're just still working on it. But winning changes everything. When you start winning consistently, you lose all your excuses. You can't blame the market anymore because your edge is working. You can't blame your strategy because it's printing profits. You can't blame lack of knowledge because you're executing successfully. All you're left with is you, your discipline, your consistency, your ability to keep doing what's working. And if you fail now, it's not because trading is impossible. It's because you chose to stop doing what works. That's terrifying because it means you're in control. And control means responsibility. And responsibility means you can't hide. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're overweight and you've tried every diet. Keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, whatever. None of them worked. Or more accurately, none of them worked long-term because you couldn't stick to them. And as long as you keep trying and failing, you get to tell yourself, I haven't found the right diet yet. But then one day, you try something and it works. You lose 20 pounds. You feel better. People notice. And suddenly, the excuses are gone. If you gain the weight back now, it's not because the diet doesn't work. It's because you stopped following it. You can't blame the system. You can only blame yourself. That realization is heavy. It's uncomfortable. And your brain, which loves comfort and hates discomfort, starts looking for ways to escape that responsibility. So what do? You sabotage. You start eating off-plan. Just small deviations at first, then bigger ones. Within a month, you've gained everything back, and now you're safe again. Safe in the familiar identity of someone who's still trying, still searching, still hasn't found. The answer, trading, is exactly the same. When your system starts working, when you start winning consistently, your brain panics. Because winning means you've found the answer. And if you've found the answer, you can't make excuses anymore. So your brain engineers situations that let you fail. Not because you want to fail consciously, but because failure is more comfortable than the responsibility that comes with sustained success. Let me show you exactly how this plays out in trading. Because once you see the pattern, you'll recognize it in your own behavior. And recognition is the first step to breaking free. Pattern 1. The random deviation. You've been following your rules perfectly for 3 weeks. Your account is growing, everything is clicking. Then one day, you see something that's not quite your setup. It's close, but it's missing a confirmation. Old you would skip it without thinking. But something whispers, this one looks good enough. So you take it, it loses, and suddenly, you're questioning everything again. Pattern 2. The scale up. You've been risking 1% per trade. It's been working beautifully. You're up 8% for the month. Then you see a setup that looks extra good, and you think, why not risk 3% on this one? It's so obvious. You convince yourself you're being aggressive and smart, but really, you're introducing the possibility of a larger loss. A loss that would hurt enough to justify quitting. The trade stops out. You just gave back 3 weeks of progress in one position. Pattern 3. The strategy hop. Your current approach is working. You've got 5 winning weeks out of the last 6. But you see another trader posting about a different strategy, and suddenly, your brain starts asking, is mine really the best? Maybe I should try that other approach. So you switch. The new strategy doesn't work immediately. Because you don't know it as well, you lose money, and now you're back to square one, telling yourself you're still searching for the right system. Pattern 4. The profit obsession. You've been good about not checking your P and L during trades. You've been focused on execution, not outcomes. But after a great week, you start watching your account balance, every tick, every dollar. You're no longer trading your setups, you're trading to protect or grow a number. This adds emotional weight to every decision. Within days, you're making fear-based choices instead of strategy-based ones. I've done all 4, multiple times, and every time, I convinced myself it was something else. Market conditions changed. My strategies stopped working. I got unlucky. But the timing was always the same. Right after progress, right when things were working, right when I should have been doubling down on what was successful. That's not coincidence. That's self-sabotage, and it happens because success threatens your identity. You've built an identity around being someone who's struggling, someone who's trying, someone who's learning. When you start succeeding, that identity has to die, and your brain will fight to keep it alive because the familiar, even when it's negative, feels safer than the unknown. Here's what's actually happening in your brain, and this is going to sound abstract, but stay with me because understanding this will change everything. Your identity is built from stories you've told yourself so many times that they feel like facts. I'm someone who struggles with discipline. I'm someone who's still figuring this out. I'm someone who hasn't quite cracked the code yet. These stories aren't necessarily true, but they're familiar, they're comfortable, they're who you've been for months or years. And familiarity creates safety. Your brain loves safety. It will do almost anything to maintain it. Now imagine you start winning consistently. Your trades work. Your rules produce profits. You execute your system perfectly for weeks straight. What happens to those stories? They break. They have to. Because you can't be someone who struggles with discipline if you just prove you have discipline. You can't be someone who's still figuring it out if you figured it out. You can't be someone who hasn't cracked the code if you're literally using the code successfully. This creates cognitive dissonance. Your behavior doesn't match your identity. And when that happens, your brain has two choices. Option 1. Change the identity to match the new behavior. Option 2. Change the behavior to match the existing identity. Changing your identity is hard. It's uncomfortable. It requires letting go of who you've been. It requires becoming someone new, someone responsible, someone capable, someone who can't make excuses. Changing your behavior is easy. Just break a rule, take a bad trade, blow up your account. Boom, you're back to the familiar identity. The struggling trader, the one who's still learning, the one who hasn't quite made it yet. And here's the cruel part. Your brain makes option to feel like the rational choice. It gives you reasons. You're being too rigid. Loosen up a little. This trade looks good even though it's not your setup. You've been trading well. You deserve to take a bigger risk. These thoughts feel like helpful suggestions. They feel like you being smart and adaptable. But they're not. They're your brain trying to restore the familiar identity by sabotaging your new behavior. I experienced this so clearly one time that it shocked me. I was 3 weeks into consistent profitability, following my rules perfectly, account growing steadily, and one morning, I woke up with this overwhelming urge to change something. Anything. My stop placement, my risk amount, the time of day I traded. Nothing was broken. Everything was working, but I felt this intense need to tinker, to adjust, to modify, and I almost did it. I almost changed my stop placement just to be more conservative. But then I stopped and asked myself, why? What's actually wrong with what I'm doing? And the answer was nothing. Nothing was wrong. I was winning. And that was the problem. Winning meant I couldn't tell myself I was still figuring things out. Winning meant I'd figured it out. And my brain was looking for any way to introduce uncertainty again, to break the winning streak, to restore the familiar story that I was still on the journey, not at the destination. When I realized that, when I saw what was actually happening, I made a choice. I wrote in my journal, I'm going to become someone different, someone who can handle winning, someone who doesn't need the safety of struggling. The old me has to die, and I'm okay with that. That was the moment everything changed. Let's talk about why success feels so threatening. Because it all comes down to one word: responsibility. When you're losing, you can distribute responsibility. It's the market. It's your strategy. It's bad luck. It's volatility. It's the big players. It's anything except fully, completely, 100% you. But when you're winning, when your system is working and your rules are producing profits, that distribution collapses. Now it's just you, your discipline, your consistency, your choices. If you fail from this point forward, you can't blame external factors. You can only look in the mirror. That's heavy. That's really heavy, because it means every future failure is a choice, not a circumstance, not an inevitability, a choice. You chose to break the rule. You chose to take the bad trade. You chose to stop executing what was working. Most people can't handle that level of responsibility, so they sabotage themselves before they get there. They blow up while they can still blame something else. They fail while there's still an excuse available. Let me tell you a story. I once had a trading friend who'd been working on consistency. For 2 years, he finally got it together, had a plan, followed it religiously, started seeing real progress, 8 weeks of steady growth. His account was up 22%. Then one day, he took 3 trades that weren't his setup. All 3 stopped out. He gave back for weeks of gains in one session. When I asked him what happened, he said, I don't know, man. I just felt like I needed to be more aggressive. But I knew what happened. He got scared. 8 weeks of success meant he couldn't pretend anymore. He was capable. He'd proven it. And if he kept going, if he maintained that consistency for 6 months, a year, he'd have to accept that he was a profitable trader. And being a profitable trader meant every day he had to show up and execute. Every day, he was responsible for his results. That pressure felt unbearable. So he released it the only way he knew how. He self-destructed. Here's what I wish someone had told me 5 years ago. That pressure, that responsibility, it doesn't get lighter by avoiding it. It gets lighter by accepting it. When you stop fighting the responsibility and start embracing it, something shifts. It stops being a burden and becomes power. Because here's the flip side. If you're responsible for your failures, you're also responsible for your success. You're in control. Not the market, not luck, not external circumstances. You, your decisions, your discipline, your execution. That's power, real power. But you can't access that power until you're willing to accept the responsibility, and most traders never do. They stay stuck in the victim mindset where the market is happening to them, where they're at the mercy of forces beyond their control. Because that mindset, even though it keeps them losing, feels safer than accepting that they're actually in the driver's seat. So how do you break this cycle? How do you stop sabotaging yourself every time you get close to consistent profitability? It starts with understanding something fundamental. You cannot become a profitable trader and stay the same person. It's impossible. The version of you that got you to where you are cannot take you where you want to go. You need to become someone different. And that means the old you has to die. That sounds dramatic, but it's accurate. The you who makes excuses cannot coexist with the you who takes full responsibility. One has to go. The you who hops strategies when things get hard cannot coexist with the you who commits long-term to one approach. One has to go. The you who trades emotionally cannot coexist with the you who executes mechanically. One has to go. Your brain experiences this as a genuine threat because in a very real way, it is. The identity you've carried, the stories you've told yourself, the person you've been, all of that is dying, and your brain's job is survival. So it fights, it resists, it sabotages. Not because you're weak, but because transformation is legitimately threatening to your sense of self. Here's what helped me. I made the transformation explicit. I wrote down who I was and who I needed to become. Not vague statements, specific characteristics. Old me takes trades outside my plan when I'm bored, checks P and L constantly, makes excuses when I lose, hops strategies when I hit a rough patch, trades to feel productive. New me only takes planned trades regardless of boredom, checks P and L once per day maximum, takes full responsibility for every outcome, commits to one approach for minimum to 100 trades, trades to execute process, not to feel productive. Then I made a commitment. Every day, I would choose to be the new version, even when it felt fake, even when it felt uncomfortable, even when my brain was screaming at me to go back to the familiar behaviors. I would choose the new identity over the old one. And here's what's wild. At first, it did feel fake. I'd be following my rules, and part of me would think, this isn't really me. I'm pretending. But I kept doing it anyway, day after day, week after week, and slowly, the new behaviors became automatic. The new identity became familiar. And the old version, the one that sabotaged and made excuses, that version started to feel foreign. After about 2 months, I had this moment where I saw a trade outside my plan. The old me would have taken it, but I didn't even feel tempted. It wasn't a struggle to resist. I just didn't want it because I'd become someone who only takes planned trades, not someone who's trying to only take planned trades. Someone who actually does it. The identity had shifted. That's when I knew the transformation was real. I wasn't fighting my old patterns anymore. I'd actually become someone different. Here's what I need you to understand. The discomfort you feel when you start succeeding, that's not a sign something's wrong. That's a sign you're changing. And change always feels uncomfortable. When you follow your rules perfectly for 2 weeks and you feel this weird anxiety, that's not a problem, that's transformation happening. When you're winning consistently and you have this urge to change something, that's not intuition. That's your old identity fighting to stay alive. The discomfort is supposed to be there. It's proof that you're becoming someone new. And if you run from that discomfort, if you sabotage yourself to return to familiar feelings, you'll never complete the transformation. You'll stay stuck in the same cycle forever. I remember the first time I went a full month without breaking my rules. Not one deviation. Perfect execution every single day. And instead of feeling proud, I felt weird. Almost like I was in the wrong body. Like this wasn't me. The discipline felt unnatural. The consistency felt forced. But I didn't stop. I kept going. And somewhere in month 2, it stopped feeling weird. It started feeling normal. Following my rules wasn't something I was forcing myself to do. It was just what I did. Like brushing my teeth. Automatic. Natural. Part of who I was. That's what happens when you push through the discomfort instead of running from it. The new identity becomes the default identity. And once that happens, you don't need willpower to trade well anymore. You just trade well. Because that's who you are now. But most traders never get there. They feel the discomfort of weeks 2 and 3. They interpret it as a sign they're doing something wrong. So they change course. They break a rule to feel familiar again. They sabotage progress to return to the comfortable identity of someone who's struggling. And they spend years, sometimes decades, in that loop. Build up, feel uncomfortable, sabotage. Start over, never realizing that the discomfort was the path forward. That pushing through it was the only way to actually transform. So if you're feeling uncomfortable right now, if your trading is working but it feels wrong somehow, that's good. That's your brain recognizing that you're changing. Don't run from it. Sit with it. Accept it. Tell yourself, this discomfort means I'm becoming someone different, someone better, someone capable of sustained success, and then keep executing. Keep following your rules. Keep doing what's working even though it feels weird. Because on the other side of that weirdness is a version of you that doesn't sabotage. A version that can handle winning. A version that's finally, consistently profitable. So here we are. You've seen the pattern. You've seen how fear of success creates self-sabotage. You've seen how protecting your old identity keeps you broke. Now you have a choice. You can keep doing what you've been doing. Build momentum. Feel uncomfortable. Blow it up. Start over. Keep that cycle going for another year. Another 5 years. Another decade. Stay safe in the familiar identity of someone who's trying but not quite there yet. Or you can do something different. You can face the fear. Accept the responsibility. Embrace the transformation. Let the old version of you die. Become someone who can handle winning. Someone who executes consistently. Someone who doesn't need excuses because they're actually doing the work. That second path is uncomfortable. I won't lie to you. It's going to feel wrong for a while. Your brain is going to fight you. You're going to have moments where you want to sabotage just to feel familiar again. You're going to be tempted to break rules, to change your approach, to run from success. But if you push through, if you commit to becoming someone new, if you accept that discomfort is part of transformation, something incredible happens. You break the cycle. You stop sabotaging, and you start building real, sustainable, consistent profitability. Not because you found a better strategy, not because the market changed, because you changed. You became someone who can handle success, and that changes everything. The market doesn't care about your fear. It's going to keep moving, keep presenting opportunities, keep rewarding discipline and punishing emotional trading. The only question is, who are you going to be when you sit down to trade tomorrow? The old version who sabotages when things work, or the new version who pushes through discomfort and stays consistent? That's your choice. And that choice will determine your entire trading career. Choose wisely, because on the other side of that fear, on the other side of that uncomfortable transformation, is everything you've been working toward. Financial freedom, consistent profits, a career that actually works. But you can't get there by staying who you've been. You have to become someone new. And that starts today, right now, with the next trade you take, the next rule you follow, the next moment you feel uncomfortable and choose growth over comfort. You can do this. You can break the cycle. You can stop sabotaging yourself. But first, you have to admit what you're actually afraid of. And then you have to face it anyway. If this hit you differently, if you recognize yourself in this pattern, drop a comment. Let me know when you realized you were sabotaging your own success. And subscribe to Trader Reset for more psychology deep dives that actually address the real problems traders face. Remember, the market isn't keeping you from profitability. Your fear of success is. Face it. Transform. Become someone who can handle winning. That's the only way forward. I'll see you in the next one.